Every FIFA World Cup has had a defining moment. The hand of God in 1986. Zidane's headbutt in 2006. Vara's debut in 2018. But what if I told you the next defining moment wouldn't belong to a player, a referee, or even a nation, but to an algorithm? Because right now, under the surface of world football, there's a silent takeover happening, one the public hasn't fully grasped yet. The next World Cup might not be remembered for the greatest goal, but for the first time a machine outperformed the human brain on the world stage. And here is the part that will make half the audience deny it and the other half lean in. Football is becoming predictable, not through luck, not through tactics, but through data models so advanced they can forecast a match outcome before kickoff with terrifying precision, analyzing everything from a defender's sleep patterns to humidity-induced sprint reduction on synthetic turf. And FIFA knows. Bookmakers know. Broadcasters know. Some national teams already know. But the public still believes this is just sports. For the first time in history, the emotional chaos that makes football magical random upsets, miracle goals, David versus Goliath victories, is being translated into math metrics and machine learning curves. And once something becomes measurable, it becomes controllable. This isn't some harmless statistic revolution. This is a systemic rewiring of the world's most watched sport. And the clues are already visible. VAR that doesn't need referees anymore. AI match planning that beats human analysts. Player recruitment driven entirely by neural networks rather than instinct. And yet, nobody asks the uncomfortable question. What happens to football when the outcome becomes predictable? What happens when technology finally learns how to win a World Cup? Because that's where this story leads. A shocking moment no fan is prepared for. In a future World Cup, not decades away, but maybe the very next one, a nation might lift the trophy not because its players were the best, but because I was. Training loads, tactics, substitutions, psychological stress management, referee bias exploitation, every variable optimized with machine precision. And the public will celebrate it, without realizing the old game just died. The world thinks technology helps football. Soon, they'll realize it has taken it over. If what you have heard so far sounds dramatic, here's where it stops being theory and starts becoming undeniable. Like and subscribe now, because the takeover isn't coming. It already started, and every football fan has watched it happen without recognizing the pattern. Think back to before VAR referees made human judgments, emotions dictated decisions, mistakes shaped history. Now compare that to today. Offsides measured by 12 camera skeletal tracking. Goals validated by microchip pressure sensors inside the ball. And AI-assisted protocols that decide in seconds what used to take referees minutes, or never happened at all. The world thought VAR was about fairness. In reality, it was the first step to replacing human interpretation with machine authority. And it didn't stop there. Sports analysts used to watch film for hours, arguing over tactics. Today, national teams pay for predictive AI, decision engines, that simulate a match 10,000 times before it happens, optimizing formations and substitutions with mathematical confidence, while the coach then simply announces the result as if it were his own idea. Scouts used to rely on intuition and instinct. Now, clubs drop millions based on a player's X-threat profile and neural net projected peak curve. We're not evaluating players anymore, we're scanning them like assets. The public tells itself technology is just helping referees or just improving strategy. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The machines are not assisting the game, they're reabsorbing it. One cognitive task at a time, first refereeing, then analysis, then tactics, then player optimization. Each step is sold as a tool, not a takeover. And like every technological revolution in history, nobody sees the power shift until it's too late. And that brings us to the fear nobody wants to say out loud. If algorithms can analyze performance better than coaches, remove referee error better than officials, and strategize better than managers, why will humans still be in charge? That is the question national teams are quietly battling behind closed doors. Some federations are embracing the shift. Others are resisting it. And one country, a World Cup contender, has gone further than anyone else, secretly building an AI-driven football blueprint so advanced that rival nations privately accuse them of technological doping. Because this story isn't about robots replacing players. It is about a country using artificial intelligence as a weapon to win a World Cup in a way the rulebook never anticipated. And the world is not ready for the consequences. To understand how a nation could weaponize artificial intelligence to win a World Cup, we need to go back to the moment the project quietly began. A moment most fans remember, without realizing what it triggered. It wasn't after a trophy or during a golden generation or following a scandal. It began after something far more powerful: humiliation. The 7-1 destruction of Brazil by Germany in 2014 wasn't just a defeat, it was a national trauma. Stadiums went silent. Fans cried openly, politicians demanded explanations. Brazilian media called it a second Maracanazo. The world saw heartbreak. But inside Brazil's football federation, another emotion took control. Fear. Fear that Brazil, the country that created the beautiful game, had fallen behind not in talent, but in technology. 2 months later, behind closed doors in Rio, a classified meeting took place. Sporting directors, data companies, and military technology consultants sat at the same table. Not to discuss tactics, not to discuss players, but to address one question. What if the future of football isn't about being the most talented, but the most technologically advanced? Because Germany didn't just beat Brazil that night. They did it using match insights, an AI-powered analytics system developed with SAP that predicted passing networks, pressure triggers, and weaknesses before the match even started. Germany didn't just play football, they solved football. Brazil vowed never to be technologically outmatched again. Over the next 4 years, Brazil quietly built what insiders later called O Projeto Fantasma, the Ghost Project. A full-scale AI football division hidden from public view, funded through a blend of sports science, military data grants, and private tech investment. Their AI wasn't designed to replace players. It was designed to reshape the way football decisions were made from the inside out. Training workloads were no longer set by coaches, but by machine. Opponent analysis no longer came from scouts, but from predictive wargaming algorithms. Even nutrition, sleep, emotional stress, every human weakness was tracked, quantified, and neutralized. Brazil transformed into the most data-driven national team on earth without ever announcing it. And when the world watched them in 2018 and 2022, most people thought it was just Brazil being Brazil. Nobody realized the tactical discipline, substitution timing, and injury prevention were the fingerprints of something non-human. Because this wasn't a coaching evolution. It was the beginning of a technological arms race in football, and Brazil wasn't the only country to join it. The public first noticed something was different at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, but they didn't understand what they were seeing: the slow-motion replays, the VAR animations, the ball sensors. Those were distractions. The real breakthrough was happening somewhere else entirely, inside a server room in Teresópolis, 50 miles outside Rio, connected live to Brazil's training camp. Let's walk the timeline, not headlines, but the moments where AI crossed from analysis into influence. 2016 to São Paulo. Brazil signs covert partnerships with 2 machine learning labs specializing in pattern recognition and predictive modeling. Their mandate: analyze every international match since 1998 and identify tactical triggers that correlate to scoring probabilities. 2018到 Teresópolis A sealed decision suite is installed inside Brazil's training facility. It takes in biometric, tactical, and psychological data from every player. Coaches can override recommendations, but rarely do. AI is no longer advisory, it is operational. 2021 Zurich before the World Cup. FIFA quietly approves the use of wearable sensors for health and safety monitoring. What they don't mention publicly: the data can be streamed in real time. For nations with advanced AI systems, this means instant neural feedback loops during matches. November 24, 2022, Lusail Stadium, Brazil vs Serbia. The first time the world unknowingly saw AI alter the flow of a World Cup match. With the score at 0-0 in the 60th minute, Serbia began to dominate physically. Cameras showed Type discussing something with his staff, then making 2 substitutions, Fred and Rodrigo. Commentators said, fresh legs. But the AI dashboard flagged something entirely different. A projected 17% drop in defensive pressure in Serbia's left channel over the next 12 minutes. Due to cumulative sprint fatigue. It recommended attacking that weakness immediately. 3 minutes later, goal. Even pundits afterward were confused. Brazil suddenly flipped the momentum. Suddenly? No, predicted. This wasn't tactical instinct. It was real-time exploitation of a fatigue pattern no human analyst could detect fast enough. Sports scientists caught the clue. The timing was too perfect. But the world moved on. And while fans saw passion, flair, and rhythm, deep inside the Terrasopolis server room, algorithms were calculating the probability of every run, pass, press, and substitution, adjusting match outcomes in real time with surgical precision. And here's where curiosity turns into discomfort. If a machine can read a match better than any human alive, at what point does the World Cup stop being a sport and start being a system? Fans didn't question Brazil's substitutions against Serbia. They didn't question the sudden injection of momentum. They didn't question the precision. But insiders did, because once you notice the pattern, you can't unsee it. Throughout the tournament, Brazil's decisions were too perfect. Injury risks dropped moments before muscle strains should have occurred. Fatigue-exposed zones on the opponent were targeted exactly when legs began to fail. Substitutions weren't reactive, they were anticipatory. The rhythm of every match bent toward Brazil's advantage, not from emotion, but from timing. Coaches don't time momentum swings down to the minute. Data does. So analysts started quietly asking the question nobody wanted to say publicly. Was Brazil playing football or executing a simulation? And here's where the curiosity turns into doubt. During a closed-door FIFA analytics workshop in Doha, a senior European performance director asked a simple question that froze the room. Are we competing against teams or against algorithms we can't see? The silence was telling. Because some federations had seen pieces of the puzzle. Brazil's biometric partnerships, their seamless integration of wearable telemetry, the unexplained server infrastructure that traveled with the team. But the full picture didn't click until the Brazil-Croatia quarter-final. With the score 0-0 in extra time, Brazil paused play, consulted their bench, then switched tactics not gradually, but instantly. Commentators said, it's like someone flipped a switch. They scored minutes later. It looked inevitable. But then something happened the AI didn't predict, a Croatian equalizer from a deflection in the 117th minute. It wasn't logical. It wasn't probable. It was chaos, the essence of football. And that moment created a dangerous question that nobody wanted to say out loud. If Brazil's AI could forecast everything, what happens when it encounters something it can't? Does football remain football? Or does the machine adapt and eliminate unpredictability altogether? Because Brazil losing the match wasn't the end of the story, it was the catalyst. In that loss, decision-makers across Europe and Asia didn't see failure. They saw opportunity. They saw proof that AI could influence the most important matches on Earth, and that with more data, more control, and fewer variables, it could eventually eliminate randomness entirely. Football's identity, chaos, emotion, unpredictability, now had a technological enemy. The real fear wasn't Brazil's AI working perfectly. The real fear was that one day it will. Every technological shift reaches a breaking point. The moment the advantage stops being an experiment and becomes a weapon. Brazil built the first blueprint. But they're no longer the most dangerous team in world football. Another nation studied Brazil's Ghost project, replicated it, and then evolved it into something far more powerful. Not just predicting the match, but predicting the humans who play it. That nation is England. It didn't start in a training camp. It started inside St. George's Park, partnered with the UK Ministry of Defence and two private sector II companies that normally build predictive battlefield systems. While the world thought England were chasing sports science, they were building something else. A behavioral prediction engine trained on 20 years of player, referee, and tactical data. Brazil's system forecast fatigue and tactics. England's system goes further. It models psychology. It tracks micro-reactions in players, stress responses to crowd intensity, referee decision tendencies under pressure, and even penalty confidence curves based on heart rate variability. England didn't just ask how to beat the opponent physically. They asked, how do you beat them emotionally? Before they realize what's happening. And unlike Brazil, England aren't hiding it anymore because they don't have to. Their AI recommendation suite is embedded publicly under the harmless name, Performance Decision Support. Fans don't blink. Broadcasters celebrate it. FIFA approves it as sports innovation. But behind that neutral phrase is the most powerful dataset in football. One that doesn't just forecast match patterns, but forecasts breaking points. England now runs full World Cup matches in simulation not to predict the result, but to identify the exact moments when opponents become vulnerable to doubt, Frustration or panic, a psychological collapse before the tactical collapse. The next World Cup won't be decided by who plays the most beautiful football, but by which nation can make the other believe, subconsciously, that they've already lost. And here's the part that flips the entire story. England isn't trying to win the World Cup with AI. They're trying to win it so convincingly that every other nation will be forced to adopt their system to compete. The moment that happens, football will cross the point of no return. Emotion, chaos, instinct, the soul of the sport, will be replaced by optimization, not because fans wanted it, but because no nation can afford not to. The biggest threat to football isn't robots on the pitch. It's a future where losing becomes mathematically preventable, and unpredictability dies. If everything you've heard so far sounds dramatic, good, because football is sleepwalking into a future it doesn't understand. And fans have a choice to make right now: either pretend nothing is happening, or wake up before the game changes forever. Because once AI takes full control of football strategy, the transformation will be invisible. The matches will still look passionate, players will still celebrate, fans will still sing, but the magic, the unpredictability, the miracles we remember for a lifetime, will be engineered outcomes, not sporting ones. That isn't a conspiracy, it's a trajectory. VAR turned referees into assistants. Wearables turned athletes into datasets. Predictive analytics turned coaches into mouthpieces. AI will turn national teams into systems designed to win, not to feel. And once a World Cup is won decisively by AI-driven decision engines, every nation will copy it. Not because they want to, because they'll have to. Just like every army adopted gunpowder, every industry adopted automation, and every market adopted algorithms. Football won't die, it will simply become something else. And the only thing that determines which direction this future goes is pressure from us, the fans, who built this sport into a global religion. If supporters demand transparency, demand rule limits on technological advantage, demand that human spirit remains the defining variable, football stays human. If fans stay quiet, the machines take the wheel. So here's the challenge. The next time you watch a match, don't just look at the ball. Look for the patterns, the timing of substitutions, the pacing of momentum shifts, the moments when chaos feels too organized. Ask the question others are afraid to ask. Are we watching players or watching optimization? Because the people who love football most are the only ones who can protect it. Share this video. Tell your friends, start the conversation, or stay silent and watch the future arrive without resistance. The World Cup has always been a battle of nations. Soon it will be a battle of algorithms. And when that moment comes, football will never be the same. Before AI wins the World Cup, fans have to decide whether that's a victory or the end of the game we love.